Warning: the following video contains spoilers through to Towers of Midnight, the 13th book in the Wheel of Time. If you do not wish to be spoiled, please stop now.
Hey guys, welcome back. And let's just jump into it, because you've probably seen the title of this video and are already preparing to tear into me in the comments. So let me start with my standard disclaimer. I love this series. Recently, online, I have met fans that have not been alive for as long as I have loved these books. I have been reading and rereading these books for more than half of my life. They occupy a huge part of my headspace. Probably too much, if I'm honest with myself. But there are just moments in these books that, as the title of the video says, moments that make me cringe. And what got me thinking about this was that recently I have been successful at the thing that most Wheel of Time fans really try to do. I have gotten one of my best friends to start reading the series. She started to read Eye of the World, and I am so excited to talk to her about it when she's done. But, like, was it the day after, she told me that she had started reading it, I was on the bus, and I suddenly remembered a moment from the books, and I was like, oh my god, what is she gonna think of that scene? Oh my god, it's so cringe. And then other moments like that started to come to mind. But then I also started to think of moments that make me cringe, but that I think are intentional. More of a visceral cringe. Maybe the word better there is cower. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I thought I'd talk about both of those in this video. Moments that make me cringe that I don't think are probably intentional, and then the moments that, well, there's a couple that just come to mind of just, oh yeah, I think Jordan meant for me to feel this way while reading this passage. So the first thing I will mention on this list of cringe moments is something that I don't think my friend is going to get to for a while, like hopefully if she ever gets to the point of finishing the series. But it's how the women are tamed by their relationships with men. There has been some talk recently in the fandom about Min and her sexy lampishness, specifically after she finally hooks up with Rand. Prior to their relationship beginning, she is a fully independent character with her own goals and her own independent storylines. But once she hooks up with him, that's it. That's pretty much all she is from that point on. She is his romantic partner and nothing else, really. But this to me is actually the least egregious version of this, my particular problem with this. Because while her plotline kind of just sort of disintegrates, she still feels like herself to me. Her personality doesn't suffer. But then there are other women, like, say, Melaine. She's an Aiel wise one who, she lays a bridal wreath for her future husband and goes out of her way to include a specific type of flower that symbolizes that she has a prickly nature and she intends to keep it. But after she's married, it actually says in the books that after she's married that the marriage affects her and she seems to have to work at being prickly now. But of course, the most egregious version of this is Nynaeve. Nynaeve and Lan finally get married, and she gets, okay, well, the word one member of my Discord used to describe this, which it's perfect. She gets dickmatized. It changes her personality. Nynaeve is, as I'm sure you all know by now, she is my favorite character, and I am so happy that she finally gets to be with the man she loves. But I kind of like her less afterwards, because she's more muted. Her personality is softened. Her edges are smoothed. Everything changes. She just becomes she becomes less Nynaeve. And yes, I do think that if you are in a healthy relationship, it should help you become a better person. It should help both of you, or given what series we're reading, it should help all of you. No need to limit this to two people. But it's not something that should happen instantly. And the way it plays out with Nynaeve and with Melaine is they get themselves a taste of the D, and it totally calms them down. It turns out that's what these ladies needed. They, all of their issues, all of their personality problems prior to this were not real. They just needed to get laid. Dick, apparently, is magic. It's cringe. You want to give a character growth? Yes, please. I want that. I want it to be a consequence of something not stupid, and not something that implies that women's problems are fixed by penis. Okay, moving on. The next cringe-inducing moment is Rand tells a joke. You know, the joke about the guy falling down the tree and doesn't say hello and blah, blah, blah. You remember the joke, right? Like, now, this one I actually think is intentionally cringy. Maybe I'm wrong, but every time I read it, I just shrivel up into this little ball of secondhand embarrassment. Just, no, stop telling this super corny joke to a room full of people who, A, were not expecting a joke, and B, don't understand any of the references. Just, But again, I totally think this is an intentionally cringy moment. I think we are supposed to feel embarrassment for Rand. You know, feel bad for him for being around people who just don't get him and get his humor. And for me, if it is, Robert Jordan definitely succeeded. The next cringy thing on my list is pretty much everything with Talonvor. I really don't like his storyline or his character at all. So even when he shows up briefly in Eye of the World, I'm irritated by him. I just want him to go away. And then when he shows up later, again, briefly with, oh, what book is it? The one where Matt meets him in the palace. I think it's Dragon Reborn? Whatever. Whichever book it is, when he starts talking, I just want to scream like, dude, you need to get a new job. You are obsessed with your boss and she doesn't know you exist. It's unhealthy. But of course, he comes back later and yeah, it's this whole romantic plot line. And I am making the hugest air quotes right now. He is obsessed with her and has been since before he actually knew her. He loved her from afar. You know, it's this courtly love ideal thing that really is just creepy because what on earth was he actually in love with? They weren't friends before this. She had other men, other boyfriends. She wasn't interested in him, but he loved her from afar, and it's so romantic. It's not creepy or stalkery at all. And in case this isn't coming across, massive sarcasm here. He was in love with his fantasy of her and expected that because he was nice and was taking care of her, that she should love him back. Now, as I've mentioned in a previous video, she is his queen, and he's a queen's guard. Taking care of her and being nice to her is literally his job. He is expecting her to fall in love with him for doing his freaking job. If my doctor, who is nice to me and takes care of me, were to get all pissy because I wasn't falling in love with him, I'd find another doctor because that's creepy as hell. But what makes it even more cringy is that the narrative is written to make us think that he's right, that she should be in love with him. She should fall in love with this prototypical nice guy and jump into a romantic relationship despite all of the incredibly recent trauma that she has suffered. And she should probably, take some time to recover from. But no, he's nice. He looks after her. And what's more, he wants her. So she should do the right thing and want him back. It's gross. It's creepy. It's cringe. I hate it. But okay, back to good cringe. Paddon Fane, this man, so awful, so creepy, but so amazingly well written. He gets very few POV sections in these books, which I'm okay with, quite frankly, because being in his head makes me want to take a shower. One of the things that I think Robert Jordan does amazingly well is write horrific, terrifying, horrifying things into his story without being gratuitous with it. How do I say it? Like, the camera lens of the narrative doesn't linger on the horror. It isn't glorified. But, to anyone who would say then that The Wheel of Time is innocent and child-friendly, I have to say you probably just weren't paying attention. Just because it's not torture porn, just because it isn't like, ooh, look at the blood and the viscera and, the intestines flying around. Just because it isn't doing that doesn't mean that there aren't horrifying, terrifying, disgusting things happening in this story. For example, the scene I'm going to talk about is one that sticks with me. It's something horrifying happens here that is barely touched in the writing. It's just alluded to, but it's done so well. And we're in Paddon Fane's head, which makes it even worse because he doesn't see what he's doing as horrifying. Fane has, in this scene, I think it's in Lord of Chaos, he has just done something to the child of one of the dark friends he's keeping around him. And we don't actually even get the details of what he's done to the child. He just had this overwhelming, I think, rage, and he just touches the child, and something goes into the child, and we know that the boy is convulsing, probably in pain. It says that there's a word that they use here that, is it gibbering or gibbering? I don't know. It's one of those words that I've actually never said out loud until just now, so I don't know if I'm saying it properly. But he's doing that. Anyway, and that alone is horrifying, especially because Fane seems to do it almost carelessly. Like it's accidental. He didn't mean to do it, but he's like, oh, that's cool. Look at the thing I did. And then he thinks to himself that it's been a while since he's been with a woman. So he grabs the mother. And then there is this line. We're in Fane's head. So he grabs the mother and he thinks to himself, why was she struggling? He knew he was being charming. Oh, it's just so horrifying. Every single reread, when I get to this section, I am absolutely disgusted by this. And at the same time, I'm amazed at how perfectly it is written. There is literally nothing in the writing that says outright what is happening, what the woman is thinking or feeling. It is a tiny paragraph of writing, like it's maybe 5 sentences, and it is so horrifying. Cringe actually probably isn't the word. Cower, I don't know. Just go into a corner and like rock myself to comfort myself after reading this section. It's a moment that fully tells you who and what Fane is, the depths of his depravity and evilness. I love it and I hate it at the same time. Oh, Robert Jordan is just a master of that. So now, we get to the cringe moment that I actually thought of on the bus, the one that inspired this video. And I actually think that most of you, especially, any female viewers, probably know the moment I'm talking about. And it happens much earlier than everything else on this list. Like, when I thought of this on this bus, I was literally thinking, like, oh God, depending on how quickly she reads, she could be sending me a message going, oh, what the hell is this scene, in like a few weeks. It's the scene in The Great Hunt where the girls all meet each other. Well, the girls, I think it's girls minus Nynaeve. It's Elaine, Egwene, and Min meeting in the tower. And there is just so much giggling, so much boy talk. It's like they're at a middle school slumber party. And I know that they are teenagers, but they are not 13. There's just a lot of, ooh, you know Rand al'Thor? I know Rand al'Thor. How do you know Rand al'Thor? Ooh, look at your brother. Ooh, and your other brother. Oh my God, they're like totally cute. Do you think he likes me? Oh, ask him, but don't tell him I said so. Oh my God, pass him a note in history class. Like, Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but just a little. That's what it feels like when I'm reading it. Especially when they get to the point where Egwene literally says something like, oh, I like you. I want to be your friend. And then they hug, right? And Min gets in on the hug, and then it's just so freaking cringe. They're all like, oh, we're never going to let a yucky boy come between us because boys have cuties. And then one of the brothers, I think it's Gawain, is like, why are you girls in like a weird, giggly triple hug? And they're all, oh, you wouldn't get it. And then they collapse in a fit of giggles, and it's just, oh my God, they are not children. If you're going to have the girls acting like this, then show me the boys off somewhere having, I don't know, what do middle school boys do? Like a farting contest or something? I'm not sure. I was never a middle school boy. I don't know. It's nails on a chalkboard level of cringy. I hate it so much. I'm like, okay, I appreciate Jordan doing the whole ovaries before broveries thing here. It's cool that these girls decide to put their friendship first, but I mean, what friendship? They barely know each other at this point. So that in and of itself feels a little weird, but okay, fine. Even if I bring all of what happens to them later on in the story into this moment, and I know that they are going to be good friends, it's still so awkward and off-putting the way they act here that it just, drives me crazy every single time. I like skim it every time I read this section. It's like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this so much. And with that, I think I will end this list here. In my opinion, these are the biggest offenders in the, this makes me cringe meter, offenders might not be the right word, because a couple of these I feel were completely intentional, and they, made me cringe in a way that I think was intended by Robert Jordan. But they still made me cringe, so they go on the list. There are other moments, but these are the most significant ones, I think, for me. How about you? What's on your list? Do you have a list? Let me know in the comments below. And join my Discord, and let's hash it out there. Link to my Discord in the description below. And if you are enjoying these videos and want to support me, please check out my Patreon. I am saving up for a better computer to, help out with the editing process. I'm about halfway there. So I will link to my Patreon in the description below as well. And with that, as always, like, subscribe, and stick around for the art credits. Bye.